You have made this decision before. You said this time is different. You planned it out. You felt the motivation burning in your chest, and for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, it actually worked. And then, without any dramatic moment, without any single point of failure, you drifted back to the old routine, back to the old patterns, back to exactly who you were before you decided to change. And you did what most people do. You blamed yourself, your willpower, your discipline, your character. But here is what nobody told you. Your brain was never going to let that change happen easily. Not because you are weak, but because your brain is running a program designed over millions of years of evolution specifically to resist the thing you were trying to do. And once you understand exactly how that program works, you will finally understand why every attempt before now felt like pushing against an invisible wall. And more importantly, you will know exactly how to push through it. Let us start at the very foundation. Inside your brain right now, there are billions of neurons connected by pathways that have been carved through repetition. Every behavior you have repeated enough times has a dedicated highway. And the older and more repeated the behavior, the faster, wider, and more automatic that highway becomes. Neuroscientists describe this process through a principle called Hebbian learning, which in simple terms means neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you perform the same action in response to the same trigger, the connection between those neurons gets thicker, faster, and more insulated with a substance called myelin. And once a behavior is myelinated, it becomes almost effortless. You do not decide to do it. You just find yourself doing it. This is how you can drive a familiar route and arrive with almost no conscious memory of the journey. The behavior was so deeply wired it ran on autopilot. Now here is the critical part. Your brain does not distinguish between good habits and bad habits when it comes to this wiring process. It simply rewards repetition. Whatever you have done most gets the strongest pathway, and that pathway does not disappear when you decide to change. It sits there fully intact, waiting for the moment your guard drops. Now here is the layer that most habit content never explains, and it is the most important piece of this entire puzzle. Your brain is not just passively holding on to old pathways, it is actively fighting to return you to them. There is a biological mechanism called homeostasis, and it operates in your brain exactly the way a thermostat operates in a room. A thermostat is set to a specific temperature. If the room gets too hot, the system activates to cool it down. If it gets too cold, the system activates to heat it up. The whole purpose is to return to the set point. Your brain does the exact same thing with your behaviors, your routines, and even your emotional baseline. When you introduce a significant change, your brain registers it as a deviation from the set point, and it activates systems designed to return you to baseline. This manifests as discomfort, restlessness, irritability, intense cravings, a sudden flood of reasons why your old way was actually fine. And here's what makes this so psychologically devastating. These sensations feel like evidence that the change was wrong, that you are not cut out for it, that you should listen to your body and stop. But what you are actually feeling is not failure. It is homeostasis doing exactly what it was designed to do. The discomfort is not a stop sign, it is confirmation that you are genuinely changing. Let us talk about the architecture of the habit loop, because understanding this structure is what separates people who successfully change from people who try and fail indefinitely. Charles Duhigg popularized this framework after years of studying behavioral science, and the structure is elegantly simple. Every habit, regardless of how complex it appears, is built on three components: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is the trigger that activates the habit. It can be a time of day, an emotional state, a location, a specific person, or any sensory input your brain has learned to associate with the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself, and the reward is the payoff that your brain receives, which reinforces the loop and makes it more likely to run again next time. The reason this matters so much is that most people trying to break a habit attack the routine while ignoring the cue and the reward. They use willpower to stop the behavior, but the cue is still firing, and the reward is still being craved, and the brain is still running the loop it was trained to run. Only now there is a wall in the middle of it. And that wall is made of nothing more than conscious resistance, which is a depletable resource. So the loop finds a way around eventually, every single time. Here is what the neuroscience says actually works. You cannot eliminate a habit loop. The cue and the reward pathway are essentially permanent once established. What you can do, and what research consistently shows is extraordinarily effective, is substitute the routine. Keep the cue. Keep the reward. Change only the behavior in between. This works because the brain does not actually care about the specific routine. It cares about the reward the routine delivers. If you can find a different behavior that delivers a similar neurological reward in response to the same cue, you can reroute the loop without fighting the brain's fundamental wiring. Someone who smokes when stressed does not actually need the cigarette. They need the 2-minute break, the deep breathing pattern, and the psychological permission to step away from pressure. A different behavior that delivers those same elements hits the same reward circuitry, and over time the new pathway begins to compete with the old one. Not immediately, not without resistance, but with enough repetition the new path starts gaining myelin and the old path starts getting less traffic. This is the only approach that works with the brain instead of against it. Now let us talk about the role of identity in all of this, because this is where the entire system either holds together or falls apart. There is a reason some people manage to change their habits permanently, while others cycle through the same attempts repeatedly for years. And it is not about the technique they use, it is about the story they are telling themselves while they use it. Researchers in behavioral psychology have found that the most durable behavior change happens when the new behavior becomes attached to a new self-concept. When you are trying to stop eating sugar, your brain processes it as deprivation. You are a sugar-eating person trying to resist sugar. The old identity is still active. But when you genuinely begin to see yourself as someone who prioritizes how they fuel their body, the same choice stops being resistance and starts being expression. You are not saying no to a craving. You are saying yes to who you are. This distinction sounds philosophical, but it is deeply neurological. Identity activates a completely different set of brain regions than goal setting does. Goals live in the prefrontal cortex, which is the newest, most energy-intensive part of your brain. Identity lives in deeper, more automatic structures. And automatic structures almost always win. Here is something about the timeline of change that most people get catastrophically wrong. They expect new habits to feel natural quickly. They expect the discomfort to pass within a week or two. And when it does not, they interpret the ongoing friction as evidence that the change is not working or is not right for them. But the neuroscience of habit formation tells a very different story. The widely repeated claim that habits form in 21 days has been thoroughly debunked. A study by Philippa Lally at University College London followed 96 people trying to form new habits and found that on average, it took 66 days for a new behavior to reach automaticity. And the range extended all the way to 254 days for more complex behaviors. The implication of this is enormous. Most people quit during the exact window when the habit is still being constructed at a neurological level. They feel the friction and stop. But the friction is not evidence that the habit is not forming. The friction is the forming. The discomfort is the sound of your brain building new architecture. Every single day that you continue, despite the discomfort, you are adding another layer of myelin to the new pathway. The people who successfully change their habits are not people who found a way to make it feel easy early. They are people who understood that the discomfort was temporary and kept going anyway. So let us bring everything together, because there is a clear and actionable picture here. Your brain resists change not because it wants you to fail, but because it is doing its job with extraordinary efficiency. It has built highways for everything you have repeatedly done. It is calibrated to a homeostatic set point that it will fight to maintain, and it runs habit loops that are essentially automatic once the cue fires. Understanding this changes everything about how you approach change. You stop fighting yourself and start working with the architecture you actually have. You identify the cue and the reward that anchor your old loop, and you find a new routine that delivers the same reward. You stop measuring success by how easy it feels and start measuring it by whether you showed up again today. You attach your new behavior to a new identity, and you let that identity do the heavy lifting that willpower never could. And most importantly, you give it the time it actually requires, because real neurological change is not a 2-week project. It is a months-long rewiring of the most complex structure in the known universe. You are not lazy. You were never undisciplined. You were simply trying to change the wrong way in the wrong time frame with the wrong understanding of what your brain was doing. Now you know better, and knowing better changes everything about what comes next.